but let's get started. In 2017, NVIDIA CEO made a bold prediction. He said that software is eating the world, but AI is going to eat software. 5 years later, we all know this is true because we're all sitting here. We're all sitting here because ChatGPT sold us the dream of AI, right? But the truth is that AI is still hard, it's expensive, and it cannot guarantee a positive outcome. Even with all of the generative AI tools today, it is making it really easy and quick to build AI prototypes. But the reality is that it still takes 11 people $95,000 to deploy and maintain a machine learning model today. And what's worse is that 85% of these models don't actually generate a positive ROI. And that makes it really difficult for most companies to embark on these luxurious experiments that fail more often than not. At the same time though, businesses are seeing the value of AI and they're getting really excited. And this is especially confusing when in 2023, ChatGPT say that with AI, you can get 40% more productivity and double the revenue. I mean, I cannot vouch for these stats, it is ChatGPT, but I love the confidence. But what ChatGPT failed to articulate here is that sometimes it's actually not worth it. And actually 85% of the time, it's not worth it. So what I'm here to tell you today is share a little bit from my experience of how to squeeze us all into the 15% that can maximize the value of AI. My name is Meralda, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Melia AI. We have built a team of a couple of engineers over the past 4 years, delivering across more than 20 clients across 3 continents. And we have helped blue chip companies as well as startups to form and build their data and AI strategy. And I was a recovering data scientist. I've seen my fair share of failed AI initiatives, and I'm here to kind of show you what I have learned. I'm getting a lot of questions from founders these days that's asking, am I too early? Should I hop on this AI train and hoping that I can gain some investor preference, or I can add a little powered by AI, a little logo in my website? Or should I just focus on my core product and maybe worry about AI later? Some founders are even asking more poignant questions, such as, is there such a thing as being too early? And what is the risk of being too late? I would be selling snake oil if I told you that there's no such thing as too early. But the truth is that it is actually a little bit more accessible than many of you may think. We go on like this discovery journey with businesses who approach us in the beginning to find out, hey, what can AI do for me? And we ask them these questions. We call these the are you ready questions. So let's try and answer some of these questions together. And maybe at the end, you can rate yourselves on if you're ready. So the first question is, do you have a customer problem that can be solved with AI? There are a lot of cool, fancy, and shiny tools that are being built, but does your customer really need an AI avatar that makes them a cool astronaut? Or do they really just want to get their delivery on time? But if you really do have a customer problem that can be solved by AI, then can AI do it faster, cheaper, or better? It has to be able to do that 2 or 3 out of the times, otherwise the ROI is very difficult to justify. For example, AI can probably, most of the time, well, in some of the use cases, can do faster than human and sometimes cheaper. For example, routing spam emails, matching CVs, reconciling invoices. They can do it better, but not necessarily, well, they can do it faster, but not necessarily better. And on the other hand, the AI can probably recommend better what is the optimal delivery time for your customer. But it's going to be a lot more expensive than a little drop-down box that says, what about next Tuesday? And the second thought experiment is, does the capability already exist within the industry today? And the answer kind of is, oh yes. So, unless you have a core AI product or you have very deep pockets, sometimes, actually most of the time, it's very expensive to embark on these R&D journeys. In the first instance, if your competitor already has AI embedded into their product, then it's probably worth it. For example, building a recommendation system for an e-commerce website. It's not easy, but it's probably going to be worth it. In the second case, if there is AI in adjacent industry but not in your own, then you still need to hire someone who has experience to deliver and build something like this. And one example is document summarization. That is quite a prolific use case in the industry today. But if you want to adapt it for your own company, you'll probably need to hire an experienced engineer to build it and deploy it for you. Then the last instance is the technology is still quite nascent. It exists in research papers only. In that case, you will have to figure out how to deploy it, integrate it, and maintain it, and it's not going to be cheap. What a lot of people fail to recognize that is for AI to make a real impact, it has to be fully integrated with your product, and that is a lot of expensive software engineering. Then the last thought experiment is that once you figured out you have a real problem and you have done some research to validate that it is technically feasible, then do you actually have the capital to build it, to build this experiment? And the word experiment here is quite key because unless you have deployed a couple of models into production, you probably still need quite some time to figure out what is the best way to deploy it, integrate it with the rest of your system, maintain it when something goes wrong, and all of the other things that goes with an AI system. As a thumbs up value, we have 4 to 6 weeks and $5,000 to $20,000 to build something that is worthwhile as an experiment. So no, AI is not cheap. And obviously that depends on different type of use cases or the complexity, and depends on if you build it in-house or if you outsource it. But as a founder of a consulting company, I can teach you a life hack, but don't repeat it elsewhere because it costs us a lot of time and money, is that you can always go on a discovery call with a consulting company. Because firstly, if they agree to take your call, then you probably have a more validated problem. If you can't get anyone to talk to you, then you probably need to go home and do a little bit more homework first. And if they do agree to talk to you, then a good consulting company can always help you validate if your idea is worth the time and money. If they agree to give a proposal, then it's probably worth it. And the last one is we live and breathe and research and do a lot of the AI projects and pay a lot of school fees and AWS cost so that you don't have to. So if you have been able to answer yes to all 3 of these questions, having a customer problem that can be solved with AI, that is a technology that exists today, and have the time and capital to support it, raise your hand. No, is there no one? Come on, let's leave out the capital part. Okay, yes, okay, there's some people that I'm really glad. Yeah, and so TP, you must raise your hand, you're already doing it. But I just want to jump a step back, and what happens if you answer no to all of these questions? That's still okay. It's okay because you thought about it, but it's not okay if you ignore it. It's kind of like if you launch a software company back in the mobile revolution and ignore mobile, or if you're launching a software company during a cloud revolution and ignoring cloud. You can't be building a software company today and not think about AI, because it is an AI revolution now. You don't have to do anything about it, you just have to have an answer, thoughtful answer, when an investor asks you about it. So before I tell you how to build AI, let's start with some failure modes that we have seen. And Ross is laughing because he knows I'm going to use one project as an example. The first one is don't hire junior data scientists if you don't have very strong support. Very strong product support for figuring out what to build, and very strong engineering support to figure out where to find the data and deploy the model. I love juniors. Juniors are curious, they're excited, they're always willing to learn, but they also need a lot of time and space to make mistakes and to learn from them. If you can't give them the time and the space, don't hire juniors, because you'll most likely screw up their career and your project at the same time. The second don't is don't experiment with risky or open-ended experiments without having a process of some human in the loop of fixing it when something goes wrong. We have a client who wants us to submit a regulatory reporting to the regulatory body in automated way without anyone checking it. And that is a really bad idea because AI is always going to make mistakes and you don't want it to become a reputational risk. And the last one is don't start a project before you finish the previous one. We are all venture builders. We all have a shiny object syndrome. I know I do. But it is very important to give your project a label. It can be, it's deployed, made some money, or lost some money, or it can be we shelved it because it's expensive, it's not the right time, it's bad quality. It doesn't really matter, but you have to close the project so that you can go to sleep and your data scientists can have some closure. Speaking from a recovering data scientist. I've heard this quote from a recent podcast that I was listening to. It's paraphrased, of course. Building a startup is like running a marathon. But instead of running a marathon in a consistent pace, we run it in a series of sprints. And building an AI project is one of these sprints. That's going to be very intense. You are going to be super excited and you're not going to sleep for 6 weeks because that's just how it is, you're so excited, but it's going to be worth it. So treat your next or first AI, actually all of your AI projects as a 100-meter sprint. And to prepare yourself, once you figure out what to build, you must prepare yourself in 3 ways. The first one is position yourself at the starting line. Know exactly where you are and what your customers are expecting and where you are today. For example, if you are building a recommendation system to upsell your customers, you need to know what the current basket size is. If your customers are spending on average 1,000 Rand per order, then after your model launch, they better be spending more than 1,000 Rand. But how much more is the second question. That's when you have to draw a line in the sand of where is your 100-meter mark. You have to think about your goal and your milestones. Is it going to be 2% ROI, 100% ROI? It doesn't really matter, but you need to give yourself a number so that you know, okay, when I hit this 50% mark, my project is a success and you can rest. Otherwise, you're going to be sprinting forever and you're going to have burnout and you're going to die. But the truth is that you can build a project in 4 weeks or 4 years. At some point, you're going to reach diminishing in return. So hopefully it's closer to 4 weeks than 4 years. And the same with the last one. Give yourself a time limit so that you are closer to the 4 weeks line than the 4 years line, so that you can go to bed. And I know it's very difficult to distill everything that we have learned in the past couple of years into a 10-minute talk. So we've decided that for any startup attending Data Connect tonight, we can give you a 30-minute free consultation on to help you validate your idea and if your idea is actually worth it. A lot of the time, startup comes to us and be like, oh yeah, the technology is not there. Actually, they are there. A lot of them are. And I would be a really bad entrepreneur if I don't sell something. We also have a productized service now that we are helping startups review and design their AWS architecture so that you can build and deploy your data and AI solutions easier. Thank you.